Hello everybody, how you doing? This is Valencia Flyer. Hope you're doing great today. Today on the channel we are going to be talking about Detroit and what kind of a base it is for flight attendants. I've been here a little over a month and I have a lot to say about the topic, so stick around if you want to learn a little bit more about what it's like to be based here in Detroit, Michigan. If you're into flight attendant information, some adventures on what it is to be a flight attendant, or even looking to becoming a flight attendant yourself, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I have a lot to say, a lot to show. I am a new flight attendant for a major airline here in the United States, and it's pretty cool. I gotta say, it's very, very cool. So go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and check out the other episodes that I have on my channel. But in the meanwhile, let's get into it. So, Detroit, Michigan. Yes, it is a wonderful and beautiful day outside right now, which is very cool. We are here towards the end of September, beginning of October in 2023. And let me tell you a little bit about how I came to be here. After becoming a flight attendant, or rather during becoming a flight attendant, my company gave us a few choices. The choices were between Boston, Detroit, and Minneapolis. So my first instinct was to automatically pick Boston because I love Boston very much. It is probably my favorite city to hang out in the United States. But I did try to become a little bit more intelligent about my decision making, so I had to put a little research into what each was. When I saw Detroit on the list for the very first time, I was like, oh hell no, I'm not going to Detroit. No way. But that was based on the image that I thought Detroit was all about. So if you ever saw, Beverly Hills Cop, he comes from Detroit, and the way they depict it, not the prettiest, to be honest, right? So I had that idea and that preconceived notion that that's what Detroit was all about. So that being said, I was just automatically, no, that's not for me. But after doing a little bit more research and with the goals that I had in mind as becoming and being a flight attendant, I decided to choose Detroit over Boston and Minneapolis, okay? Now, the biggest reason that I chose Detroit is because there seemed to be more interesting, there was a more interesting variety and international choices of flights coming out of Detroit. Boston had a lot of good ones too, but it was more centered more towards Europe, where Detroit was a little bit more varied. You'd have some going to Europe, some going to Canada, I think some going to Mexico and Central America, and then some also going to China, Seoul, and Japan. So I thought, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. And in my head, I thought, well, if there's more opportunities to go to these far places, maybe there's more opportunity to make a little bit more money at the same time. So when I did all my research, ultimately I did decide to pick Detroit. So now another big reason why, after doing my research on Detroit, it seemed to be one of the most inexpensive cities on the list. Not to say that Minneapolis wasn't inexpensive, but compared to Boston, it was definitely more inexpensive than Boston. Another reason was there seemed to be a little bit more crash pad opportunities in Detroit compared to Boston. I know Boston is notorious for there being some sort of law or something like that, and I'm not clear on it, but something about no crash pads are allowed in Boston. I'm sure there's a way they get around it. I'm sure there's something that people can go into, obviously. I wasn't aware of it, and it just made it a little bit easier to figure that out here in Detroit. So that's ultimately why I decided to pick Detroit ultimately. But regardless, it made me a commuter because I'm from the Vancouver, Washington area. So either way, whether it was going to be Minneapolis, Detroit, or Boston, I was going to end up commuting no matter what. Now the commute here from my place is about 4.5 hours. I strategically plan my flights around it, and so far I've been pretty good. So far I've gotten here on time. I've gotten home in a reasonable amount of time as well. So far it works out really, really well. Like I said, what I originally thought of Detroit is not what I found. So let's talk about that a little bit. What I found in Detroit was a lovely modern, clean city, which surprised me to no end. Now, a buddy of mine, Raspberry, and I decided to rent a car one day when we first got here, and he had very similar notions of what this place was about too. He's normally from Salt Lake City originally, so we drove around and we found that this place is really nice. It's clean, it's pretty modern, it's right on the water, which I'm not horrible at geography, but I didn't realize it was that close to Canada. Literally, you stand on the edge of Detroit on the water, and there's all of Canada, which was really interesting. So it's right up there against Windsor, Canada, and you go ahead and cross and go under the tunnel in the water. Next thing you know, you're in Canada. So there were some really, really nice spots. The food here is actually really cool. They've got a nice little monorail that goes around the town, which is super exciting, a lot of fun. I took some footage of that and we had some good adventures, had some wonderful pizza. We had a really, really, really good time. My friend Chris also joined us, so we were having a good time, the three of us. And it was very pleasant to see that Detroit was nothing like I had imagined. So that was another amazing, amazing thing about it. The weather out here, I'm sure it can get very cold. Right now I'm at the end of summer, so I'm sure during the winter it could get bone chilling. I'm sure it can. I personally to this point have not experienced that as of yet. So time will tell on that. Another really nice thing about Detroit is that I was able to, with my friend Raspberry, Chris, and my other friend David, we were able to get ourselves a crash pad here at a local hotel that is not very far from the airport. We're just north of the airport, and this particular place offers shuttles to and from the airport pretty much round the clock. So us getting to the airport has been very, very easy. It only takes, I don't know, probably about 7 minutes to get to the airport, another 7 minutes to get back. And they're here where we are right now. They're very responsive, very much on time. It's been very, very smooth and easy. So we love that about where we're staying right now. Now, the airport itself, let's talk a little bit about Detroit's airport. It is very nice, also very clean. It is very streamlined. Okay, I'm gonna probably do a more in-depth tour of what the airport is here in Detroit. But basically, Detroit, it consists of what I've found so far, concourse A, B, and C. And the main concourse, I think it's just this long stretch. It's just a really long stretch. And the awesome thing about it is that on this long stretch, you can walk it. They also have those automated, not escalators, but those floors that move. I don't even know what it's called. But, you know, you can get on and off, and it stretches all the way to the end. And the coolest thing, though, the coolest thing about it is that it also has a tram that goes from one end all the way to the other and back and forth. And that's all it does all day long. And I think that's concourse A. A is an apple. Then in the middle of this concourse, you'll find the escalators to go into concourse B and C, and then that makes it easy as well. I don't believe they have a tram on that one. I think the only place where they have the tram is on the A concourse, which is the longest one, right? And that, for what I can tell, is about it. That is generally how it goes. They have some wonderful long ass tunnels that have some nice artwork, a nice little atmosphere as you're walking through. It's a really cool airport, I gotta say. It's really cool, and I enjoy being there. It's easy to get into, easy to find your way. They have tons of food options. They have like McDonald's, Longhorn, they've got Starbucks, of course. They've got Coney Island, and they've got a ton of things for you to choose from. P.F. Chang's is even in there. So it's really easy. It's very nice to hang out in, if that makes any sense, right? So there's a lot of things for you to do there. So that airport, I love that airport. It's just super easy. So let's talk about a little bit about the crash pad. Here, the crash pad has been great. I'm going to do another episode specifically on this crash pad, but here we've got a nice pool. We've got a breakfast included. And like I said, the biggest thing is transportation to and from the airport. It makes everything super, super easy. So far as a flight attendant, when it comes to having a base in Detroit, A+. I love it here. Now, Detroit downtown is approximately about 21 miles northeast of here. I don't know, I'm sure there's a bus. I haven't taken it yet. We've rented cars a couple times and gone in there. So it's not a very far drive over there, but it's a whole different world over there as well. And that's where you'll find a lot of the cool stuff going on over there. Food, you know, nightclubs, movies, just hanging out. You'll find the water. It's a lot of really good stuff. So point is that here the Detroit area for a flight attendant, I think has been a wonderful experience. I'm actually in the process of putting in my transfer to go from Detroit to Seattle, simply because Seattle's going to be a lot closer to home. But I will say, when that transfer comes in for me to go to Seattle, I'm going to be a little bittersweet, because as much as I love Seattle as well, something tells me Seattle is not going to be as easy as a base than it has been here in Detroit. I also believe that Seattle is going to be probably a little bit more expensive for me, so I'm going to be missing all the amenities and the low cost of what Detroit has to offer right now compared to what it's going to be probably for me in the future for Seattle. So that's it. All right, great. Well, folks, that's pretty much what I wanted to tell you. If you are considering doing the flight attendant lifestyle, looking into that, please go ahead and check out the rest of my episodes on this channel. I keep adding more, trying to add more every week. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and put it down below. And if you are considering Detroit as one of your bases, I would honestly say I give it an A+ for bases. And again, this is the only base I've experienced so far. So far it's been very easy, very pleasant, and people out here are actually very, very cool. And yeah, it's an up and coming city. I will say that right now it's inexpensive, and something tells me that it's not going to be like that in the next 5 years. I think they're really modernizing, building up Detroit, cleaning it up, and I think it's going to have a very big, it's going to do a big turnaround within the next few years. So now's the time to get in if you're looking into that. All right, guys. Well, this is Valencia Flyer. Again, have a wonderful day. Put down those comments. Go ahead and subscribe. Like this video if you're into it. And check out my other episodes on this channel. And we will see you next time. All right. Have a great day. Take care.